Observing life in general, people very broadly seem to fall into two main camps: those who seem to have mastered the knack of successful living, and those who still find it all a bit of a struggle. I guess that for each and every one of us, these are rules that have been adapted to take into account for our upbringing, our age, and our situation. We all need to have personal standards to live up to. They will vary from person to person, but it is vitally important to have them. Without them we are adrift and unable to monitor how we are doing. With them we have a firm center, somewhere we can get back to, somewhere to touch base and recharge. They are our benchmark for personal progress. Here are 6 rules of life that the rich knows and take into account while the poor neglect. 1. Getting older does not necessarily mean you are been wiser. There is an assumption that as we get older we will get wiser. Not true, I'm afraid. But we can carry on being just as foolish, still making plenty of mistakes. It's just that we make new ones. We do learn from experience and may not make the same mistakes again, but there is a whole new pickle jar of fresh ones just lying in wait for us to trip up and fall into. The secret is to accept this and not to beat yourself up when you do make new ones. The rule really is, be kind to yourself when you do muck things up. Be forgiving, and accept that it's all part of that growing older but no wiser routine. Looking back, we can always see the mistakes we made, but we fail to see the ones looming up. Wisdom isn't about not making mistakes, but about learning to escape afterward with our dignity and sanity intact. When we are young, aging seems to be something that happens to old people. But it does happen to us. We have no choice but to embrace it and roll with it. Whatever we do and however we are, the fact is we are going to get older. And this aging process does seem to speed up as we get older. You can look at it this way: the older you get, the more areas you've covered to make mistakes in. There will always be new areas of experience where we have no guidelines and where we'll handle things badly, overreact, get it wrong. And the more flexible we are, the more adventurous, the more life-embracing, then the more new avenues there will be to explore and make mistakes in. Of course. As long as we look back and see where we went wrong and resolve not to repeat such mistakes, there is little else we need to do. Remember that any rules that apply to you also apply to everyone else around you. Others are all getting older too. And not any wiser particularly. Once you accept this, you'll be more forgiving and kinder toward yourself and others. Finally, yes, time does heal, and things do get better as you get older. After all, the more mistakes you've made, the less likely that you'll come up with new ones. The best thing is that if you get a lot of your mistakes over and done with early on in life, there will be less to learn the hard way later on. And that's what youth is all about, a chance to make all the mistakes you can and get them out of the way. 2. Change what you can change, let go of the rest. Time is short. This is another of those facts you can't escape. It's a given. If time is short, then it makes sense not to go wasting any of it, not a single lovely drop of it. It's my observation that the successful people in this life are the ones who wring every last ounce of satisfaction and energy out of life. They do that by practicing this simple rule. They pay attention to what is in their life, they have some control over, and they simply, economically, time-wise, let go of the rest. If someone asks you directly for help, then that's something you can do or not as you choose. If the whole world asks you for help, then there is very little you can do. Beating yourself up over it is counterproductive and such a waste of time. Now, I'm not saying to stop caring about things or to walk away from those in need. In fact, quite the opposite in many ways, but there are areas in which you can make a personal difference and other areas where you'll never even make a dent. If you waste time struggling to change stuff that is obviously never going to be changed, then life will whiz past and you'll miss it. If, on the other hand, you dedicate yourself personally to things you can change, areas where you can make a difference, then life becomes richer and more fulfilled. And the richer it is, curiously, the more time you seem to have. Obviously, if lots of us get together, we can change pretty well anything, but this is a rule for you, these are your personal set, and thus this is about what you can change. If you have the ear of a president, you might be able to shape policy that affects the entire nation. If you have the ear of the Pope, you might have a hand in shaping the next papal bull. If you have the ear of a general, you might avert a war. If you have the ear of an editor, you might get your name in print. If you have the ear of the head waiter, you might get the best table. And so on and so on. So whose ear have you got? What influence do you have, and what change can you effect by using that influence? Often the only ear we have is our own. The only definite influence we have is over ourselves. The only thing we can really change is exactly that, ourselves. Wonderful. What an opportunity to do some good. What a chance to make a real contribution. Begin with ourselves and let it spread outward. This way we don't have to waste time preaching to those who won't listen. We don't have to waste effort or energy or resources on things over which we have no control and no certainty of any success. By changing ourselves, though, we can be assured of a result. 3. Don't expect to be perfect, so you're aiming to be the very best at everything. But what if you fail? So long as you tried, that's all right. Who have you ever met who never failed at anything, however small? You're allowed to be human, you know. In fact, you're actively encouraged to be human. Don't try to set yourself above everyone else. The rest of us fail from time to time. If you're not a perfectionist in any way, sloppy, haphazard, unorganized, messy, and with a "so what" attitude, please skip this section. But I hardly know anyone like that. I have a friend who is a silversmith. His house is a mess, his personal life is all over the place, but every piece of jewelry he turns out has to be exactly right. Most of us have some perfectionist tendencies. My jeweler friend is quite right that every piece of work has to be perfect, certainly at his prices. If any piece is faulty, he shouldn't sell it. But that doesn't mean that he should beat himself up for having failed. He can just recognize that not everything works out and get to work on the next piece. I can't stand people who seem perfect. They make me feel inadequate. And that's not a nice way to go through life, is it? Going around making other people feel inadequate. So let's have none of it. Let's all aim to be the best, but acknowledge that it won't always happen. Just like gemstones, it's the flaws, the weaknesses, and the imperfections that lend character. A flaw in a gemstone may detract from its value, though not always, but it also proves that it's genuine. You are the sum total of everything that has happened in your life, the successes and the failures, the achievements and the mistakes. If you were to take any of the imperfect bits out of that equation, you wouldn't be you. This rule really does belong with the last one, because I'm not saying that you can be uncommitted and half-hearted about everything you do, because you don't need to be perfect. And as a rules player, I'm sure you wouldn't take it that way. The point is that so long as you're aiming for the best, you shouldn't beat yourself up when you don't always make it. Not only that, but you should celebrate your flaws and imperfections as an important and necessary part of you. This is an attitude that will make you a lot more fun to be around. 4. Don't live in the future. But the future is where it's all going to happen, I hear you cry. The future is where I'm going to be successful, happy, rich, beautiful, famous, in love, in work, out of this crap relationship, out on the town, surrounded by friends, surrounded by the finest wines money can buy. Yep, those might be plans or dreams or whatever. But again, this here and now is where it is actually at. This is the moment you've been waiting for all your life. This is the moment you must appreciate without all those other things you long for. Look, longing really is the sweetest thing. Having those dreams is brilliant. Don't let anyone ever tell you dreaming is a bad thing. But appreciate that it is you right now that is doing the dreaming. Enjoy the wishing and the longing. Enjoy being alive and having the strength and vitality to do all that dreaming. Living in the moment doesn't mean throwing away all your responsibilities and cares. It doesn't mean taking off and being a total pleasure seeker. It doesn't mean sitting cross-legged and breathing deeply, although all and any of these things are fine if you want. It just means taking a moment or two every now and then to appreciate being alive and to aim to act like today matters and live life to the full, right here, right now. We can't project all our future happiness into the future. Oh, if only I were richer, younger, healthier, happier, more in love, less in this relationship, had a better job, had nicer children, had a better car, were slimmer, taller, fitter, better teeth, more clothes. The list is endless. If only this or that was changed, everything would be perfect, wouldn't it? Unfortunately not, it just doesn't work like that. When this and that gets changed, there will always be something else, waiting its turn and putting off that happiness until some later date. If you were to suddenly find that you were slimmer/fitter or whatever, then you'd probably find yourself wanting to be richer or that your partner was more loving. You'd find other things to wish for to make you happy. Forget bigger and better and richer and thinner. The key is to appreciate what we've got right now and yet still dream and plan. That way we'll be a little happier now than if we're constantly looking to the future, where happiness apparently lies. And don't go thinking it's all right for me, it's not. I too need to lose a few pounds, certainly, get fitter, and get more stuff, and how we all love stuff. But I also value the way I am and appreciate what I've got right now because, and this is the secret, it is real. The me that is now is the real me, the future one isn't yet born and may not happen. You mean I might not lose that extra weight or get fitter? Yep, right. And the stuff I have now is at least real, tangible, and solid. Dreams are great, but the reality is fine, too. 5. Have a plan. You've got to have a plan. A plan is a map, a guide, a target, a focus, a route, a signpost, a direction, a path, and a strategy. It says that you are going to go somewhere, do something, and be somewhere by a certain time. It gives your life structure and shape, gravitas, and power. If you allow life to turn up any old thing, you'll be floating downstream as quickly as you like. Okay, so not all plans work out, and not all maps lead to the treasure. But at least you're in with a better chance if you have a map and a shovel than if you just dig at random or, like most people, don't dig at all. A plan indicates you've thought about your life and aren't just waiting for something to turn up. Or, again, like most people, you're not even thinking about it but going through life perpetually surprised by what happens. Work out what it is you want to do, plan it, work out the steps to take to achieve your goal, and get on with it. If you don't plan your plan, it will remain a dream. So what happens if you don't have a plan? Well, you reinforce, to yourself, your sense of being not in control. Once you have a plan, everything else falls into place. Once you have a plan, the logical steps to achieve that plan also become available and accessible. A plan isn't a dream, it's something you intend to do rather than something you want to do. And having a plan means you've thought through how you're going to do it. Of course, just because you have a plan doesn't mean that you have to stick to it, or follow it to the letter come hell or high water. The plan is always up for review, improvement, for change as and when you need to. The plan shouldn't be rigid. Circumstances change, you change, and your plan changes. The details of the plan don't matter. Having one does. Having a plan gives you a fallback position. When life gets hectic, and boy does it do that sometimes, it is easy to forget what we are here for. Having a plan means that when the dust settles, you can remember, now what was I doing? Oh yes, I remember. My plan was to. And off you go again, back on course. 6. Get used to stepping outside your comfort zone. Be prepared to be a little bit brave every day. Why? Because if you don't, you'll grow stagnant and moldy or curl up and wither. We all have a comfort zone where we feel safe and warm and dry. But every now and then we need to step outside and be challenged, be frightened, be stimulated. It's this way that we stay young and feel good about ourselves. If we grow too attached to our comfort zone, chances are it will start to shrink, or something will come along and dismantle it. Fate, or whatever it is that runs things, doesn't like us to get too complacent, and every now and then it gives us a great big cosmic kick up the backside to wake us up. If we have practiced stretching the boundaries of our woolly cocoon occasionally, that kick won't have too much impact, we're ready for it, and it's much easier to cope. But it's more than that. Expanding your comfort zone makes you feel good about yourself. It gives you extra confidence. And the best bit is that you can do it oh so gently. You don't have to go hang gliding or fire walking or have sex with a stranger just to test your comfort zone. It might be as simple as volunteering for something that you've never done before and that you feel slightly nervous about. It could be taking up a new sport or hobby. Maybe it will involve joining something. It could be doing something alone that you've only ever done in company before, or speaking up for yourself when you would usually keep quiet. We impose a lot of restrictions on ourselves that limit us and hold us back. We think we couldn't do that, wouldn't feel happy with that. Taking the challenge of expanding our comfort zone brings us out of ourselves and keeps us learning and growing. You can't grow mold if you're growing experience. Thank you for watching. Kindly subscribe for more content in the future and don't forget to like and share.